Hi, and welcome to this short video about requesting custom reports. So as you know, there's a huge array of reports within the system anyway, reporting library under the reports menu. But sometimes there's reports that you want that don't appear in that menu. Usually it's to do with specific reports that the powers that be are asking for, and often it's reports that contain information which is specific to your organization, like custom fields. Or obviously none of our standard reports will include your custom fields. So, that's one we'd have to have another custom report created. They are chargeable, as you're probably aware, charged per report. So if you are interested in having a custom report, the first thing we need to do is, or you need to do, sorry, is to actually create a mock-up template of the report. Now, the actual data itself doesn't make a difference. It's good to put a couple of lines in there, 2 or 3 lines in there, just so we know exactly what kind of information you're expecting to appear in there. It just helps kind of confirm that we're looking at the right information when we're creating the report. You want to put your column headers in. So first name, surname, if that's what you're putting in there. If there is any custom fields in there, like t-shirt size, you may collect t-shirt size, and that's not standard information that we collect in the system. So it must be a custom field. Then make sure you put a comment in there. Go to comments, you can do it in Excel as well, explaining that this is a custom field. Then we've got opportunities down here, and then we've got logged hours. Logged hours is another one that needs explaining, because volunteers have logged hours and providers also log hours. The one we generally trust is the providers and what the providers say that they've done. So if that is the case and you want provider logged hours, make sure that you either put it in the title of it. So rather than saying logged hours, say provider logged hours, or at the very least you put a comment on there saying provider logged hours. Okay. The names have to be exactly the same. So if your custom field is called T-shirt size, then that's what we're expecting the column header to be on the spreadsheet. Okay, so it shouldn't be roughly the same. It should be exactly the same, just to make sure that they know that they're looking at the right data when they're creating the report. Another thing you have to be aware of is parameters. So sometimes you might say, all right, well, to run this report, when they open it up, I want it to have like a from and to date. From date and to date. Okay. Well, that sounds straightforward to start with, but the devil's in the detail with all these things. Okay, so what from and to date are we talking about? We have to be very clear. Well, you have to be very clear. So you might say, in regards to, it's the OCD in me, change the color of that. All right. Black, that's the orange. You might say, well, the from date, it's from the date when they join the opportunity or something like that. Or maybe it's the date the volunteers registered. Maybe that's the date range we're looking at here. Or is it the date that they're on the opportunity? Any volunteers on opportunities between these dates? So, and obviously there's 100 different things I could say there, the parameters could be talking about. So we need to be absolutely clear, this from and to date, that you put a comment on there and explain exactly from what date and to what date you're actually talking about. So then obviously when they create the report, there's going to be a box head. You choose the from and to dates, and then it's going to bring up, click on the submit button, it's going to bring up the report based on those 2 dates. So clarification on what the dates mean, same as the column headers. Next, if you need any kind of pie charts to go, so you say, I'll create this report here and I want a pie chart, then be clear, you want a pie chart and exactly what the pie chart should be showing. Should be showing the number of volunteers and the opportunity types that they're on, or whatever it is. Be very clear what the chart would be for. And the final thing to keep in mind is sometimes people, because there's a cost per report, it's quite common people try and squeeze 2 or 3 reports into one report. It's not a good idea for a number of reasons. It'll make it harder for you to actually get the answers you're looking for when you look at the report, but also it can make the reports absolutely huge to the point where it's unusable for yourself. So just quickly explain why that's the case. So if you said, okay, I want to know, this is at the moment we've got volunteers and we've got opportunities. Okay, so that would be a one-to-many relationship. Okay, that's what they call it in the database. So one volunteer could have many different opportunities. So say, for example, if I push this down a couple, we could have Joe Blogs. Okay, and they could be on, actually that hour should be down there as well, same size t-shirt. Okay, and they could be on 3 different opportunities. Maybe it's litter picking, maybe it's what else might they have? Maybe it's gardening, and maybe it's building a dry stone wall, something like that. So you got one volunteer who's on 3 different opportunities. So suddenly that one volunteer is appearing 3 times in that report. And then you say, okay, well, we've got the hours on here. Maybe they've done 2 hours there and they've done 9 hours there. And then you add an extra column on. You say, well, actually, what I did really want to know is what the feedback was for those volunteers. Okay, so we had feedback in there. And you think, well, actually, the feedback, one opportunity can have multiple feedback. So the first feedback might be great time on the litter picking opportunity, but then they've been on the litter, they've left 5 different pieces of feedback. So suddenly, if I drag this down now, okay, copy this all across, suddenly you've got 5 pieces, and there's great time, good time, awesome, can't even spell, awesome, you get the idea, brill, and fab time. Okay, so you've got one volunteer on one opportunity and you've got 5 rows of data there. Then you think, well, that one volunteer has been on 2 other opportunities, so that could be 15 rows of data for that one volunteer. Then you think, I've got 1,000 volunteers on my system, so potentially you've got 15,000 rows of data on there. So, and it's very hard to try and make anything of use out of that when you see that table is just so big, they're just so big. So it's not always a good idea. I think the best idea when you're doing these is think of the specific question that you want the report to answer, and then get that report to answer that particular question. Don't try and answer multiple questions with one report if you can help it, because you can fall into that scenario that I've just shown you there, and with a very large and usable table. Okay, so hopefully that's useful to you. Yeah, if you have any questions, once you create it, send it across. Follow the instructions. You kind of create a support ticket request. If they've got any queries, which generally they do, they might have some. So the more information is better, always, to stop them. Otherwise, there's going to be more delay them coming back and forth with the comms. You just, if you've got any questions on there, they will ask you, and you can ask them as well questions about it, and they'll be able to explain in more detail. So hopefully that's useful to you. And good luck with your custom report building.